Hello and welcome to Local Football Flavor, baby. Here's the Fantasy Value Hour, and we're getting ready to talk all kinds of specific personnel today. Not just the games and the days that Bob hated Aaron Rodgers, but we're welcome to Local Football Flavor, where we talk to local fans to get the real information of what's going on with their team.
Joe, I can't hear you.
Am I back now?
You're back now.
All right. Well, sorry everyone missed what I said there. It was pretty awesome. You guys wanted to hear it.
It was probably like something written by Charles Dickens or something like that.
Oh, it was very epic. It was hopefully the YouTube voice reader can get that correct and have it in closed captioning for you all. But yeah, out there, everyone, thank you guys, team players, clicking like and subscribe. Bob, before we get into the inevitable Rodgers hate, which I know is real, and I can see it boiling inside your soul. I want to talk about that Monday night game. Because
let me tell you something about that Monday night game.
Yeah.
In my Yahoo home league, I was down. Obviously I was down because I didn't start Taysom Hill. At the time,
told you.
At the time, I put in David Njoku, which was also a decent play. He did get 10 points. So out of a tight end, that's not too terrible.
It's not Taysom, baby.
But I have two flex spots, and in those two flex spots, I had David Montgomery, which was a good play. Mm-hmm. Then I had Chase Edmonds that didn't do anything. He got 0.1 points. I could have easily put Taysom Hill in there, but I thought definitely that Chase Edmonds would do something. Anything actually would have been good. As this game on Monday night shows, so going into Monday night, I had still Adams left to play and Carlson left to play. Mm-hmm. And he had Brandon Jacobs left to play. So when DaVante Adams caught that touchdown, all they needed to do for me to win that game.
You mean the first one?
No. When DaVante Adams caught that second touchdown.
The second touchdown, okay.
All they needed to do was kick the extra point, and I would have won by like 0.4.
Oh, you mean the one that would have put him into overtime?
Yes. But instead, they go for 2-point conversion to Brandon Jacobs, which didn't hit. But then Patrick MaHomes didn't have to try because he already had the lead. Mm-hmm. And if he would have tried, they would have scored and they would have put the Raiders down bad. But instead, they gave the Raiders back the ball, which gave Jacobs more points. They took the reception away from DaVante Adams, which wasn't really a reception, but it would have got me more points. And they took them out of field goal range, which would have also won me that match.
Well, I got to disagree with the sentiment of them not trying. They definitely wanted to end the game on that drive. They didn't want to give it back to them. They just got stuffed.
I see what you're saying, but I think there would have been different play calls had they not already had the lead.
Yes, that part is probably true.
Patrick Mahomes would have chucked it to like JuJu, and then they would have just kept on feeding it to Kelice. Because I know you want to talk about this because this is absurd. I've been seeing it on all the betting. On all the betting Twitters that I go to, I just follow them. Everybody was betting Travis Kelsey 2 touchdowns. Everybody was betting. There were some bets that had Travis Kelsey plus 3 touchdowns, paired with something else. Some dude ended up winning like $95,000 or something last night just from like a $10 bet on Travis Kelsey. It was stupid.
Well, Kelsey is their number one weapon, and let's get into how that happened because when Kansas City came out in the beginning of that game, they were really focusing on JuJu. And in Chief Nation, there was this big cry of, why did we buy JuJu for not getting him the ball? Blah, blah, blah. He's our new shiny toy. Mm-hmm. Well, in the first 2 drives, he had 5 targets. He ended the game with 7. And the reason was he was not catching the ball. He was clearly not on the same page with Mahomes. I tend to believe Mahomes knows what he was doing more than JuJu. So that's a guess. I admit it. But I think it's reasonable to think that Mahomes knows more. And they just weren't on the same page. And that's when you saw them targeting Scantling like crazy.
I love Valdez-Scantling.
They just went Valdez, baby, and that's what they just kept targeting him. And that's, you look at the heat map of when his targets came, they're basically all midway through the second quarter through the end of the game, because that's when JuJu went off. They got taken out of the game. And the defense, I don't know if you saw this, but this gave me a lot of joy whenever, and I really hope this becomes a trend. It didn't happen a ton last night, but I loved it. Whenever the Raiders put a D lineman to jam Kelice. I was like, oh, that was beautiful.
I mean,
that was just beautiful.
When you look at what happened, I mean,
that's why he wasn't good until the red zone.
7 receptions, 27 yards, 25 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I haven't seen a stat like that since Jerome Bettis had that 5 carries, -1 yards, and 3 touchdown game or something stupid like that.
Was stupid like that. That was the end of Bettis.
But here, I want to say this about fantasy football, though, is that Travis Kelice scoring more points than Patrick Mahomes last night. I really think, in super flex leagues, quarterbacks are uber valuable, and over the lifetime of a quarterback, they do end up scoring more points.
Oh yeah.
But I just think something was. I mean, the fact that Mahomes, I think, had 29 in a lot of leagues, and Kelice ended up with 33 points. I really, as I've been doing fantasy football more and more, I just think that the scoring for quarterbacks, I feel like it needs to change a little bit more to reward it's already rewarding good quarterbacks, but it won't.
That's not necessarily true.
It's rewarding running quarterbacks.
It's rewarding running quarterbacks.
Now,
that's right.
In terms of passing quarterbacks, to make it more competitive, because I mean, not a lot of people take a quarterback in the first or second round, and it's an anomaly if you do.
Not in single quarterback leagues, no.
Yeah, but if you make it a viable option to do it, and that it's has a valuable, I don't know how to do it.
Oh, it's simple. It's one little change in your settings. It's you make passing touchdowns the same amount as running touchdowns and receiving touchdowns. If they're all worth 6, they become the same value. Because I'm in a league where there's 6.
Where they do 6 points, and it was a team quarterback. And yeah, it didn't give you but it was weird because at the time
it makes Hurts not better than Rodgers. It makes it what they are in real life.
Exactly, and it just really bugs me, and this is a hot take, I guess, because not a lot of people agree with this, but it bugs me when the quarterback who throws the 4 touchdowns has less points when the guy who catches the 4 touchdowns only logistically had 25 yards. So I mean, I get why it happened. I get that in a PPR league he scores more points. But I just feel like he got done real dirty yesterday in terms of points.
Yeah, no. Well, as a proud Mahomes owner in multiple leagues, I can tell you I was okay with it.
Yeah. So no, I'd be okay.
It wasn't like it was the worst case scenario. He threw 4 touchdowns.
As it goes for Oakland, though, as we talked about the Raiders a couple weeks ago, is that DaVante Adams is on pace for catching a boatload of touchdowns. And
he is very
unrealistic.
Their only number 1 option.
Well, no, he's their only option down the field because he had 6 or 7 looks, and every single look was beyond 15 yards. It felt like.
Oh, that's pretty much true. He very rarely does a comeback route.
So,
on the Raiders, on this note, before you get in a tangent, because I know you, and you'll do that.
Yeah.
Hollins, who's over there, he's number 10 for the Raiders. He is fool's gold. He has caught a couple deep balls. That guy is not talented. He's a run-of-the-mill dude, and he is going to get taken out of games when people actually care about him.
Well,
no defense has given him quality coverage yet, and that's why he has deep bumps. Adams is the dude.
In that game yesterday, they needed Hollins to get pressure off of Adams, and
that's because Waller got hurt.
He wasn't able to do that, and Renfro.
He's not.
Renfro is what he is. They need Waller back for Adams to be at optimal capacity. But I thought it was just it was bothering me so much that that in the fourth quarter of that game, you have one of the most elite wide receivers that you can have, in the league today. Yeah, no, he is. That is clear. His hands are glued. He had 2 receptions for 78 yards. And I understand that, they were pushing coverage his way, and the coverage was really good.
The second Waller went out, he was double teamed every play.
But I mean, there are quarterbacks out there that know what their weapons are and get the ball to their weapons, and the weapons make plays like Adams did.
Mm-hmm.
It was really frustrating like I said, because that game, the end of that game really, really sucked for me. But when they ran into each other, when Renfro and Adams ran into one another,
I have a big problem with that play call.
That drove me up a wall. How do you put your two best weapons at the wide receiver position going the same route on the same side of the field, and they run into one another? These are two guys that have been in the league for a long time. They don't run into one another. How do you make the fact that DaVante Adams just so visibly mad knows that he was going to make a play, or that Renfro was going to make a play, and
he was going to make the play. Adams was going to make that play.
They just messed it up hard.
So here's the answer to that.
Who calls the play like that?
First off, the problem is when we think of the way plays are drawn, we think of them like the way Madden draws them. All the lines are on the screen, and the receivers are going to do what the lines are. But the reality is that many offensive coordinators call concept bases, where they don't exactly have a hard line drawn on what they're going to do. They'll kind of figure it out as life goes on in the play. Mm-hmm. And this is why so often, I'm personally very much against this, as anyone who's watched strategies of football have seen. That's why you'll see many receivers go into the same pocket of a zone and end up right next to each other. It's the same concept. They saw the same hole and they went all out for it. What is much better is having only one player on the field who has that kind of freedom, and the rest of them are stable to move the defense around. That's what Peyton used to do. But that's how it happens. But the thing that was more egregious to me was Adams caught that ball on third down. Yeah. Like the fact that they overturned that. But furthermore, you're still on 4th and 1. Why are you throwing a 15% pass?
Why were they not? Jacobs was crushing it that whole fourth quarter, third quarter. He had 132 yards, which was his highest yardage total ever in his career. And you didn't give him the ball on 3rd and 1. You didn't give him the ball on 2nd and 1. You didn't even give him the ball. I mean, he did lose a shoe and had to come out a couple of plays on that drive. But he was back in for that 4th and 1. He was back in. 4th
and 1 is the one I'm upset about. The 3rd and 1, I like the play. I think he caught the ball. I think even if he didn't catch the ball, which obviously it was the rolling, to me it was still a productive attempt. It was the right. That was acceptable.
That
call.
Was such an unproductive last 3 minutes for the Oakland Raiders. You go downfield, score a touchdown. Granted, the right analytic play is to go for 2. I get it.
What do you think about Kansas City going for 2 the first time when they were up by 7?
I mean, I understood it to the degree that they probably thought that the Raiders were going to score again, and they ended up doing that. And it just so happens that the Raiders.
Because there was 7 minutes left when Kansas City scored that touchdown, chose to go for 2.
The Raiders
they would have made it a 2-score game.
And that's logistically fine. Both the outcome of both 2-point conversions didn't end up in the team's favors. Both analytically were appropriate for the game. More so the Raiders was than the Chiefs.
See, I'd argue the other way. I'd argue that the Chiefs trying to make it a 2-possession game versus the Raiders putting it into overtime. I think the Chiefs was more legitimate than the Raiders.
No, this is why I'm just saying analytically from a time perspective.
Yeah, making it a 2-score game when they mathematically show and get the ball back twice, I think is better off than having a chance to put in the overtime, only needing to stop them once. Well, that's just my mindset. Because there was 3 minutes left.
It wouldn't have put them into overtime. It would have put them in the lead.
No.
The Raiders,
Oakland lost by 1. Had they kicked an extra point, it would have been 30-30.
But I'm saying going for 2,
it would have given them the lead.
They went for 2 would have gave them the lead.
I know, but my point is, since they were losing by 1, they should have gone into overtime. Rather than going for 2. I think Kansas City was 100% right going for 2 to try to make it a 2-possession game.
From an analytics standpoint, both calls were appropriate. But at the time that the Raiders did that call, I wanted them to go into overtime, which I thought was a smart decision.
Mm-hmm.
But going for 2 there to give you the lead when you know that you have to stop Patrick Mahomes. I mean, field goal, going down and getting a field goal, they could have done that they could have done that. But
well, they did say Kansas City's kicker sucked most of that game. He hit that deep one at the end of the first half, but he was missing extra points.
Yeah,
he was doinking.
I don't think it's the regular kicker.
It's not. It's actually their second backup kicker.
But the issue that I had with it is that you go with Brandon Jacobs on the 2-point conversion. You miss the 2-point conversion. Then you don't trust him on 4th and 1 when they're stacking the box. Like,
well, maybe that's why.
Like,
but I would say run some intermediate routes instead of. My problem is the 15% because of how deep the pass was. Run other routes that give you options. You could have gotten more intermediate zones that you could have attacked with that are higher percentage passes. I just don't like the play call of a 4th and 1 throwing a Hail Mary.
No, I don't like that either. The game was mind-numbing. It really was towards the 3rd and 4th quarter because the same things were happening and the teams did not choose to stop them from happening.
That's the thing with the Raiders. So we're interviewing a Raiders guy, and his episode will come out on Thursday. But I've been doing a lot of Raiders tape in preparation for that, including the strategies of football this week will be the Raiders in Denver because the film for last night's game isn't out yet. But the Raiders all season long don't score touchdowns in the second half. And there's only 2 games they did. We're 5 games in. They only have 2 touchdowns in the second half. Mm-hmm. One was last night that they went for 2 on, and the other one was against Denver, which clinched them the game. So they just don't have confidence in it.
From the side that I was saying that, I think that the Raiders coach outcoached himself yesterday.
He does that. He's done that a couple times now.
Made some terrible play calling decisions, like you said, that should have gone in other directions. And the fact that, it's the same problem that a lot of coaches, I guess, have is I feel like, and this is just, it's just my perspective here. What a guy like Bill Belichick brings to the table, that style of coaching, it's the same Andy Reid style of coaching that I'm not coaching wise, I'm saying personality wise.
Okay.
Right. So the demeanor that the coach brings to the field is a lot different.
It's steady
than what some of these these other guys are doing. Like
Miami.
I'm okay with like coaches giving like fist bumps to their players on the sideline saying, hey,
like the Pete Carroll love,
but this guy is giving like Derrick Carr like fist bumps and stuff for like, oh, hey, good job, good play. Your quarterback's playing like ass. Like,
all right, he used to be Brady's coordinator. I mean, that's who this was. So let's look at Brady. Never did that. Maybe he just wanted to fist bump someone on TV. But the thing that I have with that offense is that this same thing happened against the Cardinals with them. They have had very Baltimore-esque big leads throughout the season, but 1 win. And part of that is because until last week, they just didn't hand the ball off. It was stupid as hell.
Yeah.
But when they're throwing it, especially in the 4th quarter, he's always going for a touchdown on this play only. And Carr can throw it. But I think the big reason is... Oh, no, Carr will throw it. I'm not saying
I don't disagree with that.
Carr will chuck it.
Chuck it.
But in the first half, he only throws the checkdowns. But when it comes to 4th quarter, he doesn't check down anymore. He goes over the top. And the other thing with Carr is that unless it's the last drive of the first half, he doesn't run until the 4th quarter. He's constantly in the pocket looking to throw. Once we get into the 4th quarter, he will scramble for a first down. And in general, while I understand you play a little bit different in the 4th quarter, that is too much of a dramatic change.
Well, it's what made the Raiders electric last year, heading towards a potential playoff berth, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was the thing that made you really like, oh, hey, this team is actually not a bad team. Now, logistically, I don't think they're terrible. I think at what are they, 1-4 now?
Same as us, baby.
I think they're the best 1-4 team.
Well, there's only 3 of them, I think.
No, but I mean, when you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, I think they're the best team. And we can look at the rankings too, but I think they're the best team out of that bunch.
Let's pull these up here for you. Let's pull up the NFL.
But they just need to stop with the giant disparities in what they're doing in each half. Like, they're making these adjustments that are just weird. And I mean, our Raiders guide tomorrow will tell us a little bit more about that. But
the other thing in doing my research for the Raiders is that they are a hard game to watch.
Not harder than the Packers. Not harder than the Packers.
They are, because of this key thing.
No, absolutely
they
not.
have more flags during a Raiders game. It is like every 4 seconds, someone in their secondary is doing something wrong. And no one knows how to cover Adams, so they're always holding him. It is like constantly a flag fest when the Raiders are playing.
From the perspective,
there's no flow of the game.
From the perspective of flags and flow, I get it. But the Packers are an arguably harder team to watch in the NFL today.
I'm going to say that's strictly because of expectations. But
no,
here's your NFL
that's
strictly
standings from
here, Bob.
A team standpoint and what they're doing. Yeah,
from the bottom up.
You're looking at Houston, Washington, Pittsburgh, Vegas.
Well, Houston
Detroit,
is not the worst team right now, my man.
No, I'm saying the teams with 1 win. The Raiders are the best team with 1 win. If you then go to the best teams with 2 wins to 1 win, you would have to then say.
Look how many teams there are with 2 wins. That's half the damn league.
So you look
2 wins or less.
You look at that lineup of teams.
The Rams are the best by far.
They haven't been playing like it.
They still are the best.
But
let's let the scoreboards tell us by net scoring points for and against. The
Raiders will probably tell you that it's.
Well, no, Cleveland has the most points for in terms of net. They've scored more.
You can sort it by net points. Go ahead.
I'm looking at the ones with.
I know,
losses.
But sort it by net points, and you'll be able to see.
So obviously the Bills, they've had 2 major blowout wins. But that being said, look at this. That's less than half of the league is positive, and Green Bay.
And look where the Raiders are. The Raiders are at -5.
Yeah, no, that when you look at it from this context. To me, this is a more true story of how you are. So,
and if you look at just how much their defense has given up, just go to that.
The worst. The Steelers. Steelers are the worst.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, because they got crushed by the Bills. But
and they also gave up that garbage touchdown.
Sorted by points given up. Sorted by points given up.
Allowed. So these are the defenses you should play. No doubt that Detroit was going to be first on that list.
So you look at Detroit, Seattle, Chargers, and up until a couple of weeks ago, Miami and the Raiders. These are offenses that definitely can put up points.
Mm-hmm.
And the Raiders, out of all those teams, are the closest to turning those points into wins. Seattle.
If they keep giving Jacobs the ball, I'll agree with that. That's the thing. They got to give Jacobs the rock more. He's their second best player, not Waller.
Yeah, Geno Smith is coming up in Seattle, and he's getting the ball to Lockett. He's getting the ball to Metcalf. The offense, is
How
putting
about
up
Atlanta?
points. I mean, you're looking
Atlanta's
at
playing competitive football.
Yeah.
So are the Jets. This is gross.
Well,
when the hell's the last time I said Atlanta and the Jets are playing competitive football? 1991.
You look at that, and then you look at the best team. The best team is Buffalo. 4-1. Look at the least amount of points given up.
They have given up the least amount of points in Buffalo. They've given up the least amount of points, and they've scored the most. That's how you win football games.
So when you look at the 2 and 3, when you look at the 2 and 3 teams and the 1 and 4 teams, you got to say that the Bengals, the Seahawks, the Falcons, the Jets, did I say the Raiders? The Raiders,
So you're talking about teams that are 2 or less that actually have a chance of rebounding this ship.
They're competitive, but the problem with the Raiders is that they're in a super competitive division. So
they are.
I mean, that could be the death knell for them. But like, if you look,
well, you also see the Chargers on this list and Denver.
Yeah, but I get that for sure. But
the problem is Kansas City is just
the
gone.
problem with Kansas City is just going away. If you look at the NFC West, I feel like all the NFC West teams I'm looking at right now.
Well, there's Seattle, there's
Los Angeles.
Oh, the Rams, yeah. I just saw them.
Arizona.
Where's San Francisco?
And then San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, San Francisco's 3. So that whole division's clumped.
But San Francisco can't score points.
Not really.
But the Rams can't score points either right now. But
I have more confidence that at the end of the year, if we look at total points for that, even though the Rams, so right now the Rams have 80 and the Niners have 103. So they're down by 23 right now with 12 games left. I bet the Rams make up that 23.
But who have the Rams played? Because I feel like they played more intense offenses.
The Rams have played Buffalo. Let's see if we can pull up their schedule here.
And
the Rams
has not.
The Rams don't want to load. The Rams have played Buffalo, Tampa, those hot Atlanta Falcons that we just mentioned, Arizona,
so Buffalo, Falcons, Cardinals. They played the Niners
and the Cowboys.
Played the Cowboys. Okay, so I mean, like,
and then let's look at their future coming up here. Carolina, then the Niners, Tampa, Arizona again, Saints. None of all those teams were, with the exception of the Niners, were in the bottom of points allowed. So there's some points coming up on these Rams' future.
Yeah, and just like I stated about Aaron Rodgers in the upcoming weeks, if the Rams' offense, Stafford's injury has definitely been a concern all year. He is still getting the ball to Kupp, but nothing else on that offense. Allen Robinson has been doing nothing. He is droppable in almost all fantasy leagues. It feels like.
Oh, how's he not?
You're having the second guy be Ben Skronik and Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee is getting so many catches and like somehow doing a lot of work with the catches that he's
much work.
But Matt Stafford is really. Kupp is making those touchdowns happen. It's not Matt Stafford. And the thing with that offense is that with Cam Akers not doing anything, literally nothing, and Darrell Henderson likewise not really doing much.
They have no running game. Yeah,
it's a hard sell. Now, if for some reason they decide and they say, "Hey guys, we're going to mortgage the rest of the farm that we have, and we're going to go out and get Christian McCaffrey," look out!
I'd love it.
Look out, because that team's a team.
Right. All right. So let's play a scenario. Obviously, at that point, you can put Carolina in as getting the first pick overall. Baker just went out. McCaffrey is out the door. We just giving them Alabama's quarterback and keeping it moving.
Here's the thing about and Dave, our
guest is Carolina just going for? We need to get Dave back. Actually, we need to get him back on.
Dave, our guy in Carolina, he hates Matt Rule, and
with a passion.
He's so glad that he's gone, and I wish I had the text that I sent him the other day about that in our text stream. But the thing about them is that DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, and Brent Burns, and I believe a lot of talking media was talking about those 3 players as being the potential trade targets that people would capture.
Dude, you just said Brent Burns. The first person I thought it was the San Jose Shark. That's how far Brent Burns and irrelevancy.
I don't know. I don't know.
No, you're right. No, you're right. That's my point, though. That's the depth Carolina's playing with.
He's very talented. All 3 of those guys are talented, and they are festering away on this team. Now, would they go out and trade these guys in order to accumulate more picks? I can't remember how much did they give up for Baker and Sam Darnold.
Baker was well, collectively it was like an entire draft.
Right.
The whole first day of a draft, the whole second day of a draft.
I think for this to work, they are so far gone as a team on offense that unless Matt Corral or bringing in Sam Darnold, the dumpster fire back again,
you have to go Corral, right?
If they don't do something here to prove if Matt Corral is the guy, then that first overall pick is definitely Alabama's quarterback. But they don't.
But you got to give Corral the chance, right? Like, because if you find out you can steal one like Dak, you got to go for it.
Here's the problem is that the pieces that they have, I don't think would even match Alabama or Ohio State's quarterback in the way
in terms of their college team around them.
Yeah, like Baker Mayfield should be doing a lot better than he is.
Yeah, well, he's hurt now, so it don't matter.
You know, I think at one point in time they brought in PJ Walker during last week's game instead of Matt Corral. And that tells me a lot about where their head's at right now. They're in a very bad place as a team. And if I'm at the trade deadline and I'm the Carolina Panthers, I'm selling Christian McCaffrey. I'm trying to get as much as I can for Christian McCaffrey. The fan base is going to hate me, but the fan base isn't even wanting to show up to the games anymore. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like it matters. And if I can send Christian McCaffrey for talent plus picks, because that's probably what it will be, or DJ Moore for talent plus picks, or just
Moore's the one I'd move.
You're going to do it. DJ Moore to Green Bay would make Green Bay maybe a good team.
Not maybe it would. No, that'd be crazy.
DJ Moore, realistically, the only teams probably looking for a wide receiver that are competitive. Can you go back to the list of competitive teams?
Absolutely. But the two to me that jump.
I mean, I don't know cap space or anything right now, but I just feel
you're saying just team need. The two to me that jump off the page. Let's put the winners up top as we got here. That if you put another receiver on their team, they're unstoppable.
Dallas doesn't have the money to take on DJ Moore.
Yeah, but imagine if the Giants actually had a real receiver.
Here's the teams that
but I don't consider them as a winner. I would say San Francisco.
Here's the
because that's a major upgrade over Ayuk.
That would go for it.
Tennessee.
You're talking Tennessee. You're talking Packers. You're talking Ravens. You're talking Giants.
Oh, absolutely, Ravens. Yeah.
If you just paid Lamar a boatload of cash, you go out there and get him a second weapon that isn't Devin Duvernay. You get him a guy.
Yeah, that's a gross sense.
You get him a guy that is going to be a possession wide receiver, because that's what they need. They need a guy that's going to get down the field. He's going to possess the ball, get 10 targets, 80 yards, 100 yards.
Colts could really use him too.
And then let Bateman shoot over the top. You've got a really good chance to go deep in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
I think by the end of the year, they're going to realize that trading Marquise Brown away
was dumb.
Was a really dumb decision. I don't even remember what they got for him.
They got Kyle Hamilton for him. Safety out of Notre Dame. Supposed to be the best safety prospect ever.
Okay. I mean, fair enough. Fair enough. But Lamar needs to cook, and he needs wide receivers.
Lamar,
and he needs to.
I'm not sure can't cook.
Well, we've talked over it.
All right, on that note, before we go down we need to throw on an ad break before we go down the Lamar route, and we'll come back with your boy. This episode is sponsored by the podcast Father and Joe. Father and Joe aims to bring individuals into a better relationship with God. Each episode discusses an element of the human experience that we all can relate to, as well as questions about faith. What are indulgences? What's going on with purgatory? Why can I mentally grasp the concept of God, but I don't feel him in my heart? During each episode of Father and Joe, we are invited to enhance our relationships, and in doing so, we will improve ourselves and society. Download Father and Joe every Tuesday. So we thank you for watching this episode of Local Football Flavor. We know there's a lot of different things you can be doing with your time, so we appreciate you either listening or watching us in whatever way you're digesting us here today. So we here at the episode want to try to request helping us out in one of 3 different ways, because all 3 ways will help us. First is the analytics. If you can either click like or subscribe on whatever platform you're watching us on, it makes a tremendous difference, as those algorithms kind of control what our popularity will be. And you, our listeners, are the only one that can help us win those analytics games. So by clicking like and subscribe, it makes a tremendous deal for us, and leaving reviews and comments help tremendously as well. So that's what we ask you as a listener to do. If you're interested in the show and you'd like to be a guest on the program, please reach out to us. We love talking to people, and it's our conversation about your favorite team, letting people know what's really going on that the national media normally misses. So we would love to have those conversations with you. And the third way is the sponsors. As you've noticed, we've already had some sponsors reach out to us here. You can see one down here in the corner. You can easily be in the scroller along the bottom, having your own personal message, as well as all other fun things like controlling the jersey I'm going to wear, or that little teddy bear behind me can be one of your team logos things. You can make me wear a stupid cheese head if that's what you want to do. All of those things are available by reaching out to us at localfootballflavor@gmail.com. We thank you guys very much for being a part of the show. And now let's resume to today's episode. All right, Bob, let's talk the cheeseheads.
Oh, God. I mean, okay. So for all the team players out there, this week I ended up starting Jared Goff, which I ended up winning. I ended up winning pretty handily.
They got shut out, didn't they?
Yeah, but I ended up winning pretty handily. I started Trevor Lawrence and Jared Goff instead of Aaron Rodgers this week. And I was okay with that decision because of the way that Detroit was doing really well. But for some reason, Jared Goff can't do anything against the Bill Belichick defense. It's a real big struggle. Unfortunately, this is my
We're going to talk about that unique factor, by the way.
This is my 3rd week this year where my second quarterback, and even my first quarterback, if you want to say whatever way you want to say, has scored below, I think, 5 points. And it really, and it's not that, and I could have started Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers had like 15 points this week. But like I said, I just am so done with the Green Bay Packers, is that they are a 1/2 team. And I don't care what half it is. They are very, very, very clearly a 1/2 team where they only have it together for 1/2 of a football game on offense. And then they are relying on their defense to do something. And a lot of teams in the last couple of years were like this. But the Green Bay Packers are pretenders. They are, until they get a weapon that is consistent on offense. It was good to see Randall Cobb getting into the offense a little bit, but that means that he wasn't getting other guys involved that probably should have been involved.
So do you take that as a plus or a minus, Cobb getting involved?
I take it as a plus to tell me that they need another weapon. Because he is
talking about a backhanded minus.
Well, I said this, I believe, before the year started, and I think I said it to you. I don't remember who else I said it to, is that Aaron Rodgers goes with guys that he trusts. He trusts Randall Cobb. He now trusts Romeo Doubs. And Christian Watson, I believe, got hurt, but he doesn't trust Christian Watson at all. And so, like I said at the beginning of the year, I thought he was going to throw it more to Randall Cobb at the beginning of the year because he had more chemistry with him and he had more history with him. And I find it odd, just like how you said, like Patrick Mahomes, like the way he does things is sort of predictable. I feel like
he's also unstoppable.
Right. I feel like Aaron Rodgers is dreadfully predictable. And that at whatever point in time that you figure out what he's about to do, he can't do it anymore. And that's, I think, where that half shows, is that if he does it before halftime, you're going to win the game. If he does it after halftime, you might have a little bit of a problem.
That's the disappointing part. And this is the real question I have. That Green Bay defense is stacked with first-round picks, up and down it, because they never give one to the offense. It's well documented.
They never do.
So how the hell are the Giants coming back from down 17 in the second half. To me, that's not as much of a Rodgers problem as much of it is as an Aaron Jones and a defense problem.
That's the thing that I'm saying is that, like, Randall Cobb shouldn't have had whatever 10 targets, 10 receptions, or whatever his stat line was. Mm-hmm. He shouldn't have had that, because you shouldn't have given up that lead. And I should have seen on the stat sheet Aaron Jones going for over 100 yards, or I should have seen A.J. Dillon for like 80 yards plus 4 receptions for 60 yards. I should have seen that. I should have seen a stat line like that, and I didn't. And going back,
is the Giants defense good?
I think they're ranked decently right now.
Like, are they here? You're saying the Packers are pretenders.
I'm saying
are the Giants still a pretender? Or are they like kind of getting something there?
I haven't seen the rest of their schedule, and I know that we talked about this with our guest a couple weeks ago, and we said we were nervous about the Giants because we didn't think that the talent at wide receiver was there, and it's still not.
It's not.
Daniel Jones is making a come up because he must have had like an ex-girlfriend call him. He must have had an ex-girlfriend call him and say, "Hey, yo, Danny, I if you get 1,000 yards rushing this year, we'll get back together again," or something like that. Like, because he is playing. I've had him on fantasy teams before, and he is playing like a different quarterback this year with that coach. That coach is coaching him in a different way and is playing to his strengths, at least in this first half of the year. Granted, they played Carolina, who's garbage. They also played Chicago, who's garbage. And they also played Tennessee to a tough match. And they've played Green Bay, who I say is garbage. Going forward in this year, Baltimore is probably going to be a hard game for them.
It's at home, though, at least.
Jacksonville could be a win. Seattle, they might struggle with Seattle.
I don't think they're struggling with Seattle.
Here's the funny thing. I think Houston's defense is actually kind of decent, secretly decent.
That's the Lovie Smith secretly decent defense.
And if they can get some of those wide receivers cooking along with Dameon Pierce, I mean, they could have some good games. Detroit is beatable. Dallas, coming back to Dallas is beatable.
That's Thanksgiving.
Even though they're going to have Dak Prescott, the games.
You're calling the Cowboys losing on Thanksgiving.
No, I'm saying they're beatable. I didn't say they'd beat them. I said they're beatable. Go down.
Dude, I see a lot of that's the rest of their schedule right there. Week 18.
Right. I can't see it. I only see up to week 12.
Oh, why?
I don't know. Oh, now I see it. So then you're coming back. You have 2 games Washington, 2 games Philadelphia, 1 game Minnesota, 1 game Indy. I think Minnesota's a loss. I think Indy's going to be a tough game, potentially a loss too. One of the Philadelphia games is a loss, like we broke down, and one of the Washington games is probably a loss too.
Yes, 3 in the division.
So winning those outside division games is going to be a blessing for them in the final rankings, because I don't know if they're going to win their division, but that will really, really help them a long way if they keep winning these non-division games to win a wild card spot.
So, Bob, all right. Just walk me through this. They got 1 loss right now. Assuming in their next 3 against Baltimore.
By week 11, I feel like they might only have 2 losses.
That's what I was going to get at. I think you look at that, they probably lose to Baltimore. They lose to Baltimore or Jacksonville, but not both. That's my guess. And then they battle Houston after the bye and Detroit. You're looking at the NFL way, 2 2-loss teams playing each other on Thanksgiving. That's kind of gross.
And then
all you're going to hear for the rest of the year is the Giants are back.
No, and then what you're going to hear starting in week 12, because this is the gauntlet. Starting in week 12, if they lose to Dallas, they're going to be like, "Oh, Skip Bayless is going to come out. Oh my God!" I'm going to come out and go, "Oh my God, the Giants are done. Their schedule's blah 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 blah." Then week 13.
Oh no, they have 2 losses after Dallas. But if they get to Dallas with just 2 losses, that would be 11-6.
This is how it's going to go. When week 13 hits, if they lost to Dallas, people are going to be down on them. If they won against Dallas, people are going to be like, okay, let's see if they can run the rest of the table here.
Oh, they beat Dallas. They're 100% losing to Washington at home.
Week 13, 14, 15, and 18. That week 18 game is probably going to be flexed to Monday night or Sunday night.
If it's for the division, but I don't think it will be. I think Philly will run away with it.
I mean, it's probably going to be one of the bigger games here, but that's the point. Philadelphia, I think, is a much better team than the Giants are right now.
They are. I see them losing every other, starting with Dallas.
The Giants.
I see them losing for the last 7.
The Giants are going to be fighting for a wild card, but they're going to. If they lose more than 2 of those games, they're going to get into a headspace where they're going to tank. But I want to point.
I think they're going 11-6. I think
I want to point something out here, though. Go back up to the top of the page with Daniel Jones' passing numbers.
Oh yeah, look how beautiful these are. It's beautiful.
That coach is making Daniel Jones work in an offense that has 0 weapons at wide receiver.
It's all Saquon,
and it's really good. It's really
good. That team is so tough. Saquon gets hurt.
It's really good in the moment, but these were, if you remember correctly, when we were with Rich, we were talking about Daniel Jones' stats from last year, when the games that he wasn't playing, and he wasn't.
Glennon's numbers are looking a lot like his numbers this year.
He wasn't awful in those games, but it was because they didn't have a healthy Barkley. With a healthy Barkley,
he's a different person.
Daniel Jones and that team is just an entirely different person. If Saquon Barkley plays the whole year, he's going to win Comeback Player of the Year.
Oh yeah.
And the Giants are going to make the playoffs in a wild card spot. I mean, there's no.
Yeah, they're out there. Yeah. Hey, let me ask you this, Bob. Do you think that in a way? Because I think realistically everything we went through, based upon what they've shown and the improvement they've shown, you're looking at 10 or 11 wins. You're either looking at 11-6, 10-7. I think that's a fair estimate for them right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think in a way that completely destroys everything because now they have to sign Jones and Saquon and they ain't gonna be cheap?
Yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. And it's the same thing that goes for Carolina, right? Where or
is it better knowing you only need to fix up less of the house? You don't need to fix running back, quarterback. You can just focus on receiver and line.
Okay. So from taking a fan's perspective on this is that if you're a fan of the Giants, you obviously want them to keep Barkley, but it's going to cost you more because he's worth the most on the team.
Mm-hmm. By far their best.
I don't think you have to keep Daniel Jones. That's the thing.
Who do you replace him with is my question. You going Trubisky because he's going to be available?
No. I mean, we all thought that the Giants were going to be so bad that they get a chance at like C.J. Stroud or the Alabama.
Yeah, that's off the table now.
Why not? It's off the table. However, and this is the struggle, is there's not a better option out there than Daniel Jones.
Right now, there's not.
So if you look at the league right now, unless the Niners,
unless you rebuy Jimmy next year,
unless the Niners want to trade away Jimmy Garoppolo for Pace,
he's a free agent at the end of the year.
But Joe, the problem is Jimmy Garoppolo won't make that team better. They don't have anybody to throw the ball to.
Well, see, that's my point. Is like if I were the Giants, I would prefer knowing that I can build it around Jones and just say we're gonna give Jones 3 years and hope he becomes like Kirk, much better as.
That's why I'm
saying, having with Cousins.
This is why I'm saying, when is the trade deadline?
Week 8, I believe.
Okay, if by week 8 they only have 2 losses or they have 1 loss, you gotta go for the gusto and you gotta get DJ Moore.
Oh, especially since you've never really had the chance in forever, or the lurker out there, you can bring back your boy. You can go Dell.
You could also.
I'll never do that if I was them. But
I'm just talking out of my ass.
If I were the Rams, I would do that though. I'd bring him back.
If Brandon Cooks is on the table, I mean, that could be another good choice.
I don't see Tennessee falling apart.
No, Houston will be selling.
Oh, sorry, I'm mixing him up. My bad. I'm mixing him up with the one in Tennessee. But Houston didn't sell last year. They sold Watson. That was it. But that's because everyone knew they were selling Watson.
Right.
They did not sell the farm.
I don't know what he's under contract for. So I mean, I could be wrong about that. But I'm just thinking of players on bad teams that would not be in the team's future plans. Like Nico Collins
Mooney.
Nico Collins is probably in Houston's future plans more than Brandon Cooks is.
Well, yeah. He's younger.
Allen Robinson is not in the Rams' future plans if the Rams start doing really bad. So if the Rams by week 8 have not put together something else, you might see the Giants call them up and go, "Hey, yo, hand me that Allen Robinson. See if he can do anything with Daniel Jones because he's not doing it with the Rams."
What about DK?
I don't think Seattle's going to be at a point where they're going to trade DK or Tyler Lockett because Geno Smith, despite me dogging on Geno Smith for so long and what he is, he's actually being pretty productive with those two guys and they already got rid of Russell Wilson. I don't see them getting rid of one of those two guys either because those two guys aren't the problem.
No, they're I'm not saying any of these are the problem. It's then the haul you would get in return. Now they just signed DK,
but I don't know if the
Giants
untradeable. I'm talking about guys that the Giants can get for cheap that would be a good value because I don't think Cooks would cost you a lot, and I don't think that Allen Robinson would cost you a lot. You also could look at
what if Tampa implodes?
I was going to say that. You could also look at like Russell Gage. I wouldn't go after Julio Jones because he's old, but Russell Gage is definitely a sell candidate because he's cheap.
Tampa also has an extra one. They're healthy.
Yeah, so it's cheap. It's easy. Gage came from the Bears. He could do something with the Giants. You also said Darnell Mooney, but realistically speaking, and this is the worst thing in the world to say. I hate what I'm about to say because
I want you to hear say it so much.
If the Bears, can you go to the Bears schedule real quick?
We can go to the Bears schedule.
If the Bears somehow, some way, by week 8, have accumulated more gross wins than any other team in the league.
Well, they're on pace for everything is gross. Nothing is not gross with them.
They could also be a buyer for DJ Moore if DJ Moore is available.
All right, Bob, let's just end this thought the rest right now here, okay? So let's take a look-see here. Their horizon is the second grossest Thursday night game of the season. Because that one last week with Denver, that was like unwatchable.
Here's what I see. So week 6, that's a toss-up. Week 7, probably a loss. Week 8, loss. Miami, depending on how
Teddy Two Gloves.
Yeah. That could be a win.
Detroit, who knows?
Who knows? Probably.
Atlanta's a who knows.
Atlanta is a who knows. New York Jets, probably who knows too. But I think Zach Wilson is going to do fine. So
I don't see Chicago pulling out any guaranteed wins.
When is the trade deadline? Can you get me a verified date on that?
I will get you a verified date on
so we can see what the record has to be. See what we're looking at going into it.
Trade deadline is November 1.
Okay, so by week 7.
That's in between week 8 and week 9.
Okay, so this sets up really well for the Giants. Doesn't set up too well for the Bears.
Dude, I don't see 5 wins on the. Okay, so let's add all of their halves up and see how many we get. I'm giving you a half for Detroit and a half for Atlanta. So that's 1. I'll give you a half for Detroit again. So we're at 1.5, and I'll give you a half for Washington.
No,
that's 2.
The reason
that's a 4-win team, Bob.
No, the reason I'm saying the Bears is because
I'll give you half for the Jets. All right, so.
Well, no, the trade deadline
4.5 wins.
if the trade deadline's is the first, it's not going to be within the
okay,
time.
Between here and the first,
yeah, no,
you're
that's why
going to lose to Washington and or lose to Washington, New England, Dallas. They're going to quit.
That's why I wanted to see their schedule, because they're talking up Mooney, and I don't know if they want to keep Mooney, if they're going to give Mooney the ball. I just see the Giants as a really fantastic trade target for DJ Moore if the Giants want to give up some picks. Now, DJ Moore isn't going to cost you a first rounder, because AJ Brown did, but DJ Moore is not going to cost you that first rounder. I think he's going to cost you maybe a second and a fourth. Giants have the draft capital, I believe, to give that up.
They do.
And all of a sudden, you're looking at that. You're looking at those weeks of games at the end of the year. There,
I would probably do that for a second and fourth.
Where now you have weapons. Allen Robinson would probably cost you like a fifth or less.
At that point, he's not doing anything for you, though.
But
see, I look at Allen Robinson.
It goes to what I was saying earlier, is that it gives them, and this is what we said with Rich, it gives them a veteran presence that has been around the ball that they don't have, that they need. They need a veteran at a wide receiver. I mean, Sterling Shepard is kind of a veteran. Kenny Golladay is kind of a veteran. But Kenny Golladay sucks. And Sterling Shepard.
Allen Robinson.
Yeah, but Allen Robinson is not as far gone from his good year as Kenny Golladay is.
True. Here, I'd look at it like this. If I were the Giants, getting Allen Robinson is basically the equivalent of picking someone off a practice squad, except you could do that for free. So why would I spend a resource? Because there's veterans now on people's practice squads because of the COVID rules changing it. So I look at it like that. If I'm the Giants and I want a receiver, that's what it is. And here's a follow-up question.
Oh, yeah, my first choice is DJ Moore, but he's going to be coveted by Green Bay. 100%.
I'm not – well, I guess the thing is would he even get moved?
Absolutely he would get moved. That team is a dumpster fire. We've talked with Dave about it. The team is terrible.
But do you want to destroy your whole nest before you put a new guy in there?
What? They're so bad that it doesn't even matter what kind of new guy you're putting in at quarterback. They've tried 7 in the last 2 years.
Yeah, they have. They're like Cleveland like that. It's kind of ugly.
And DJ Moore has been on that team, I think, for 2 years, or 2 or 3 years, and he crested over 1,000 yards, and it did jack for that team.
Yeah, it almost felt like someone had to catch the ball, though. You know what I mean?
That's always the reason. Somebody's got to catch the ball. Somebody's got to catch the ball. Robbie Anderson.
He also got open. So, I mean, that's the thing, too.
Can you go to Carolina's record the past 2 years so we can see just go to DJ Moore. And then we'll look at the people that were passing DJ Moore the ball. And I guarantee you they were infinitely worse than Baker Mayfield was this year. But somehow he did well. Now he's not doing so well. Because they were Sam Darnold, Cam
Newton. The thing with DJ Moore is he's on a 3-year, $60 million contract with $20 million of it being dead money if he gets traded. That is too much to eat.
It is if you get a good return, though.
See, I wouldn't trade it for less than 1.
I don't think
you're getting a 1, so I don't think it's ever happening.
But like, how many years has he been in the league?
All right. DJ Moore.
He had to be off his rookie contract, so at least like 3 years, right?
Yeah, let's pull it up here.
Because I think they just signed him to an extension this year.
Where's my boy? Football Reference. Where the hell are you guys at? Give me a second, Bob. Going too slow on the camera.
So I mean, if you just talk it through, and you talk through potential people, I don't think the Rams have enough to give up to get him, but the Giants definitely do. And if the Giants are sitting at a good, decent record, all right, so he's been in the league for 5 years. And within that time frame, if you could just click on the Carolina Panthers for me to see who was throwing him the ball in that 5 years.
All right.
I don't even know if that's easy to do. Maybe a Wikipedia look will help out a little bit more.
Might have to do that. Give me a moment.
Carolina Panthers quarterbacks, just Wikipedia, because it's got to be upwards of 7 due to injuries and suck. And I don't even think they've been sniffing anywhere close to the playoffs in these last 5 years.
No, not really. Okay. So here's your list, Bobby.
Cam Newton twice, probably.
From future to past, or from present to past, rather.
So let's go 5 years past.
We have Baker.
So
then we have the year of Darnold, Baker, and Pete.
Right. So 5 years he's had Cam Newton, Taylor Heineke, Kyle Allen, Will Grier, that's 4. Teddy Bridgewater, PJ Walker, that's 6. Sam Darnold, that's 7. Baker Mayfield, that's 8 different quarterbacks. And the only one that he did not get along with or vibe with is Baker Mayfield. And
a lot of people haven't been able to vibe with
it. You still have PJ Walker on your team. You also have Matt Corral on your team. You also, I think, you still have Sam Darnold on your team.
Yeah. You've got to go to Corral though.
They are so. Oh, they are so mismanaged. They're so bad. But the fact remains is that he isn't a part of your future plans. He can't be. Because
he's a stable force. It's a stable force without a stable force.
But the Giants have the capital to go after it. That's what I'm saying. Is that
for that much dead money, I would need a 1, and I don't see anyone paying a 1. And to me, that's the.
I could see the Giants paying a 1. If if they think their 1 is going to be in the low part of that draft, and they can get a wide receiver that has experience right away out the gate, the way that Brian Dable.
What if they did a 1? What if they did a 2 and sent that 1 back who has no maturity? The one that Urban one.
I don't even know if he's playing though. Like I don't know what he's been up to.
He's getting like no targets. He's getting like nothing.
But if you want to see if Daniel Jones is your guy, you've got to give him a guy. Because he's not making the guy. He's not making the guys. You got to give him the guy that he can trust. That's what I'm saying about this whole Giants team. And Rich will probably tell you a different thing. But
we do have the Giants guy coming up here on the horizon here in November. So by that point, we'll see him after the trade deadline.
Yeah, I feel like they can do so much more. And that offense with Saquon Barkley back and healthy, if they could have another weapon on that team, it could be so much better because the defense is actually secretly decent. Like there's so many, like it's like fantasy football this year where the teams are so you either have a team that's how many weeks we had 5? You ever have 5-0, you have a 5-0 and an 0-5 probably in your league. And a bunch of 3-2 and a bunch of 2-3s and maybe 1-1 towards the bottom depending on your league. But there's definitely a guy running away with things, and he's probably the guy that loaded up on wide receiver early, took Ramondre Stevenson and Breece Hall in like the 3rd and 6th rounds.
Point that out for you, Pop.
In the 3rd and 6th rounds. And they're sitting pretty right now because Ramondre is healthy. Damian Harris is not. Breece Hall is looking good. So these guys that drafted those players, you have a lot of talent. Whereas the guys that maybe went running back heavy or maybe went with a hero running back strategy, your running back is just about to start cooking. Hopefully your other pieces haven't gotten hurt yet. Yeah, you might be holding the belt, but you're still at the same record that I am.
Whatever. I'm in the playoffs and you ain't. I'm going to have a fighting chance if you want.
That's because you beat me.
I always beat you. It's percentage to make the playoffs. How can there be 5 better than 50-50? That's the problem I have with ESPN system sometimes. That's mathematically not possible.
What's my percentage? 64% or 60%?
Yours is 60, mine's 64.
That's okay.
That's not mathematically possible.
I mean, if you're just looking at that, you have to wonder to yourself, okay, which position players are going to have the longevity in the league? What's going to happen? And if we get off the Giants for a moment and we just take a look at these teams here, I actually had the biggest jump in those stupid rankings.
That's because you started so bad.
7-3. It just didn't like my team. I mean, my team is all right. My team is defensively pretty strong, but it needs to figure out a couple things.
My team's only going to get there when Najee turns back on.
Najee looks cooked.
Yeah, we'll end the show talking about Najee here. I just was on another Pittsburgh guys show. I said this last week, and I'm starting to get a little worried. Najee is not hitting the hole with gusto. He's hitting it slow. And I don't think it's because of desire. I think it's because of a physical reason. And he had the Liz Frank during training camp, and that shit doesn't go away during the season. And my fear is I used a first-round pick on a guy that ain't gonna be worth a fifth-round pick. And I think that's the reality of it.
I was in a 14 team just for fun league. And I had the 14th overall pick, and the two guys that I got were Najee and Aaron Jones, and I am 0-5. So when I look
on 5.
What?
They should be on 5. Should be Aaron Jones should be carrying a Green Bay team that has no wide receivers, and Pittsburgh needs anything possible to get a first down, and that should be Najee.
Yeah, I feel that.
This is the most untalented team ever to have one. It makes you wonder if it's the person who's calling the plays instead of the talent.
This is a stat that I threw up, and it's really.
We are going to be bringing on a Pittsburgh guest who's not me and Bob, by the way, to get another Yinzer's opinion.
Really, really gross. Okay, I'm just gonna lay it down for you, and the fans can say what they think of it. I put it on Twitter. Travis Kelice yesterday in one game had more touchdowns than any receiver on the Steelers this year.
Combined?
Oh,
that sounds right. That sounds so right.
And I'm almost 100%.
Because you're not counting Freiermuth, but yeah. The point is that I can point out the
if I don't
you're not counting.
If I don't count Freiermuth,
No, we don't score. We don't get a first down in the second half, let alone score. So,
and what I've been seeing,
the worst part is Tomlin's gonna make it so we don't get the first pick either. Like Tomlin doesn't have an all-out button.
This is the thing that I've been seeing, and a couple people that I follow on Twitter have been sharing their thoughts and opinions. And one guy I follow, I can't remember his Twitter handle, but he has like an Oilers logo in his thing, has been chomping ever since the offseason that Mason Rudolph should have been the starting quarterback this year.
It's the only justification for Canada.
And the statistic and the gross thing about that is that Mike Tomlin went 8-8 with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges.
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking at the Steelers' talent at quarterback right now. Arguably, Kenny Pickett has to be better than Duck Hodges.
He is.
Mitch Trubisky, to a degree, may or may not be better than him.
He's 100% better than Duck Hodges.
But 8-8 with those two guys.
The only quarterback in the NFL right now who's not better than Duck Hodges is Zappy. Okay.
Now, granted, the Steelers had a better offensive line that year. But
pretty even.
If I remember correctly, there were injuries on that offensive line.
That's why it was even.
Well, but if you really, really want to look at what's happening here, you got to look at the decisions that Matt Canada's making and the quarterback talent that's there, because as this person pointed out, and I wish I could remember their Twitter handle for those people that want to look them up. For those underthrows and those overthrows to happen,
which Trubisky did a lot of,
and Pickett is doing a lot of it too, there's a lot of the game play calling is that they're calling a game that the quarterback can't actually play. And that's why
not true. They're not calling a game that's competent, and the quarterback just looks bad as a result of it.
yes, but they're also making these decisions that, and we only know this if Mason Rudolph ends up starting at some point this year,
which he never will. I mean, that's also a fact. He never.
But
here's they're the worst
absolutely
team in
needs
the
to
league on
happen-
third downs by
what
a
hap-
lot.
What absolutely needs to happen is if Matt Canada is not fired in the next 3 weeks, I don't care if you have a replacement for him or not. You can take some person off the edge of the Liberty Bridge and put him as the offensive coordinator.
Oh, dude, I just thought of a scenario. This is the only thing that's even possible, and it's like it's not even 2% likelihood. This is the only way this could happen, Bob. Is if he fires Canada for Ben.
I would trade
if he brings
Claypool.
Ben in as his offensive coordinator. It's the only way that would ever happen.
Like, it just doesn't. It just the fact that they're. I mean, I know they played Buffalo, and Buffalo's a good team, but just I mean, like you said, the difference between like incompetent and like not talented. They look super incompetent when they're on the field. It doesn't.
Well, when your best receiver drops the ball like crazy and then tries blaming the fans, saying that we couldn't do it. The question isn't whether the fans can catch the ball. It's why aren't you?
You got a question too, though. I know 80 to 95% of catching a ball is up to the receiver.
Yes.
However, when the quarterback gets there, you got to put your wide receivers in a position to catch it. If you're missing catchable balls, that's a very big problem.
Johnson is.
Claypool is sucking it up, and
their only option right now is Freiermuth and maybe Pickens.
I would trade DaVante Johnson it's
impossible. His contract's too bad.
I know. I'd trade Claypool. I'd trade DaVante Johnson. I would do anything to get rid of Matt Canada. Like, I would trade them for an offensive coordinator.
Well, Johnson's starting to become locker room cancer. And that's the one thing the Steelers don't leave very long. It's the only reason we ever got rid of a Hall of Famers when they become locker room cancer.
Canada's the locker room cancer right now.
It might be, but Johnson's the voice of it.
Whatever it is, if they don't fire Matt Canada within the next 3 weeks.
Here's what's going to happen, and this is going to piss everyone off. We're going to go beat both Florida teams and then lose to Philly. I'm telling you it's going to happen.
Dude, not a chance. They will not beat Tampa Bay.
They're beating Brady.
Tom Brady loves beating the Steelers.
He does. He used to. He used to be able to.
It's going to happen again.
Listen, it's all coming down to one player. I can tell you guys this right now. Take Pittsburgh in the points. Godwin does not play. If Godwin plays, don't touch it. But if Godwin does not play, take Pittsburgh in the points and really consider that money line because it's going to be juicy.
Leonard Fournette might go for 15 catches, 167 yards, and 4 touchdowns. That's how bad that freaking defense is. It's so bad. I told everybody. I mean, I was wrong on Ryan Tannehill, but and Damian Harris ended up getting hurt, but Gabe Davis. Whew,
yeah,
we nailed Gabe Davis and Travis Kelce, and that was
play of the game. You nailed him.
I mean, we said that secondary is putrid. It's awful. TJ Watt.
That's why Godwin plays, Steelers will lose. If Godwin doesn't play, I do believe they can take Mike Evans out of the game just by double covering with Minka.
Yeah, but then Tom Brady's just going to throw it to Russell Gage, or he's going to dink and dunk it to Fournette.
Like, definitely going to dink and dunk it.
That score of that game, it might not reflect.
But this is what I'm saying. He's not capable of dink and dunking anymore. That's why they're not scoring. That's the secret behind Tampa no one wants to talk about. He's not capable of dinking and dunking. He's not accurate anymore. You have to be accurate to dink and dunk. It's like watching Baker Mayfield try it. It doesn't work. Brady is done. I'm telling you that right now.
All right. I think you've just said something bold. And I feel like The Steelers, dude, the Steelers have to be 14-point underdogs this week.
Oh, they better be.
So you're telling me take the Steelers and 14 points if Godwin doesn't play. I see that being logistically possible, but I also don't see the Steelers scoring at all.
Oh, I see this as an incredibly gross game, just like it was when they played Green Bay. Like I
don't see the Steelers scoring. Like
everyone scores 14.
They really couldn't move the ball against anybody recently, and so like,
oh, that's true.
I just don't see them. I just don't see them unless Tampa Bay makes so many mistakes. I don't see the Steelers getting past the 50-yard line next week.
See, that's bold on the other direction. I think we might have to call it on that. So as we said, schedule for this week coming out, obviously this was the fantasy value area, which we didn't talk and hate on Rodgers nearly as much as I thought you were going to.
I could have, but we talked about Daniel Jones. Aaron Rodgers. And I'm sorry for anybody that wants to get out of here, but Aaron Rodgers still sucks. Like I said, he's only a first-half player until proven otherwise. He has to start this week for me because Jared Goff is on a bye. But we are following the Aaron Rodgers saga. And as of this point...
You're right, Ian, actually.
As of this point, if we go back to what I said last week, if he doesn't have... What was it?
It was 15 touchdowns.
15 touchdowns. He scored 2 more.
Yeah, but he needed to average 3.
But he needed to average 3, so he asked this one of these games.
So I get a 4 and a 3. So I get a 4 and a 3, or he's
if he doesn't, he's cooked. He's done. Trade him.
All right. So that being said,
trade him to Carolina. Trade him to Carolina. See what I would love to see how bad. I would love to see how bad Aaron Rodgers could be on Carolina because they suck with everybody. They have 8 quarterbacks. That is that more than Cleveland? Can we leave our fans with that? Can you check to see if Carolina has had more quarterbacks in the last 5 years than Cleveland? Because that's a stat. So back in from 2018.
Alrighty.
Pull it up.
List the quarterbacks over here for you, Bob.
Share that screen. It's got to be close. All right. It's a long list of quarterbacks. All right. 2018, Baker Mayfield, Tyrod Taylor, Baker Mayfield.
No, because it's the Baker era.
Nick Mullins, Jacoby Brissett. So it's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you look at the worst years of Cleveland, from 2000 and it gets worse.
It doesn't get better, Bob.
Hold on. Okay. 2004, look at Cody Kessler sitting over there in that picture. 2016. Hey. Looking like a doofus. If we just go to the 5 years prior to whatever Baker Mayfield is, you have what? Jason Campbell, Brandon Whedon, Brian Hoyer, Johnny Manziel, Connor Shaw, Josh McCown, Austin Davis, Cody Kessler, Robert Griffin, Deshaun Kaiser, and Kevin Hogan. That's 11.
That's why I don't understand why they got rid of Baker.
This is bad company to be in, Carolina. This is bad company to be in.
Oh, Josh McCown looks so confident.
You know, though, I really like Seneca Wallace. I mean, that's just a hot take, but I know.
I can't let you go more.
He's a Bowling Green alum, and I'm not a Bowling Green alum. I did not go to
Wednesday is the strategy of football, guys. Thursday will be the conversation with the Raiders, and Friday will be DFS. I'm not letting you end this on a Seneca Wallace.
I do love the Mac. Mac shit, baby.
Oh, my God, Bob, you just ruined our show.
Seneca Wallace.